this episode, I talk with my friend and talented actor, director, and comic book writer, Jon Proudstar. You may know him from his killer TV series Reservation Dogs or his new Shudder original horror film, Blood Relatives. Jon also has a new Kickstarter out for his new comic, Tribal Force. Tribal Force is the first all-native superhero comic. I'll have a link to the Kickstarter in the show notes, and I definitely think you should check it out. It looks fucking killer, and yeah, definitely want to support this. I had a killer time talking with Jon, and I hope you dig this episode, and thanks so much for listening. And don't forget to, well, if you dig the episode anyways, and dig what I do, give me a 5-star rating on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen to podcasts at, leave a rating. It helps, so much appreciated. After you're done with this episode, make sure you check out my fellow horsemen of the podcast apocalypse, Everything Went Black podcast, Into the Necrosphere, the Necromaniacs podcast, Iblis Manifestations, and the Soul Knox podcast. Once again, thanks for listening.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now, yeah.
All right.
All right, cool. Yeah, I appreciate you being on the podcast. Our mutual friend Sonia hit me up and stuff, and I'm already a fan of yours anyways from Reservation Dogs and stuff, so I was like, hell yeah, I'd love to have you on the podcast.
Oh, wow. Thank you, man.
Yeah, dude, me and my wife love Reservation Dogs. It's so cool because, it can make you, laugh for days, but then it can just totally hit you in the, the emotions and all that stuff.
Watching the first season, I knew what was going to happen. I read the scripts, and even knowing what I knew, it still got to me. It still hit me. And I was like, man, these guys, good writers.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best TV shows I've seen in a long time. When a non-horror TV show, because that's usually all I watch is horror stuff or thrillers. But this one here hit us really hard, especially the last season and stuff. Man, that one definitely gets you. The writing is tremendous.
Yeah, season 2, I was so worried. I was like, man, how are they gonna even come close to season 1? And they just did, and it was just fresh. The stories were just so fresh and innovative, and I didn't get to work on season 2 that much. I got sick, I got COVID, so I was supposed to be in 2 other episodes, but unfortunately, I had COVID.
Yeah, that sucks, and that shit's still going around too. I'm getting over something right now myself that's not COVID, but it still kind of sucks. But yeah, COVID's the worst, and seems to be still doing its thing and stuff like that, and affecting a lot of people. So, how did you get in with the Reservation Dogs? How did that work out for you?
I had known Sterling for a while. We met at the Sundance Directors Lab in '05, and we were at different projects there, and we really didn't get to meet until the last day, and we just started chatting, and he was telling me, he goes, hey, there's movies I want to do up in Oklahoma, and long story short, I did his first film, Goodnight Irene. It was a short film. So anyway, we met at the Directors Lab in '05, and he, had told me he was going to do his film, a short film called Goodnight Irene.
Mm-hmm.
And he cast me in that. Much to the chagrin of my agent, she wasn't, because he couldn't afford to pay me very much. I think it was $100 a day, and I was sleeping on somebody's couch, and it wasn't very fancy, but I really wanted to, do this short film because it was a very human story,
Mm-hmm.
And, subsequently I worked on all his other projects, 3 other films we did together. And then when he had gotten Reservation Dogs, I got the audition from my agent. I had no idea it was his show.
Right.
Or that Taika Waititi was attached to it at all. I just did the audition, and my agent calls me up, and because I had to send her the audition. She's like, are you sure you want me to send this? Because you changed a lot of lines and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, send it. And, she sent it. And of course, a week or 2 later, they called back, and they were very excited. And I was like, hey, I better check out who's involved in this project. And then I see Sterling's name and Taika Waititi, and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be huge. And luckily they liked what I did. And, I had the connection with Sterling. And I was originally cast to play Big.
Hmm.
but I got COVID, and or I was diagnosed with COVID, and unfortunately, they had to recast the role.
Uh, well, I still really dig your role from season one a lot, and also dig the role of Big. Big's fucking hilarious and stuff. So,
Yeah, no, Zahn did a fantastic job, and I've known Zahn since the early '90s, and so it was cool. I mean, as much as I would have loved to have played the character, I was really glad that it went to Zahn.
that's killer. I think I noticed with Reservation Dogs too, is like everybody seems like they all dig each other. It's like you can feel like the family friendships and stuff like that. Everybody seems really cool with each other. It's really natural.
Oh yeah, it's really like that. Everybody, we're a small community of native actors, so we're kind of always happy when we see somebody get a role. So to see somebody get a role and then hey, you get to be in there with them, that's like, I mean, what else can you ask for?
Right. No, I think that's super killer. Like I said, this show's taken off, especially from season one to season two. And I know season three is probably already filmed or filming as we speak, or
No, we don't start until maybe March or April, from what I know.
okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah, and definitely look forward to season three. Like I said, the emotional roller coaster that this show puts me and my wife through is crazy, and that's a lot of shows or and movies can't do that kind of stuff. It's just super powerful.
Yeah, and Taika and Sterling, they have this ability to, as they're telling their story, you're laughing and then you're crying and then you're laughing and then you feel bad because you're laughing. And but it's that the realness of it, because in real situations like that, that's what happens, and I mean, you just uh and it's rare that a storyteller can do that, and these stories encompass the humanity of who we are as Native Americans. That's unfortunately it's never really been done before.
Right, and I'm glad it's being done this way and stuff, and really getting out there and stuff. There's another a Native American drama I'm watching on it was on I think it was on AMC. It was called I think Dark Winds. I don't know
Oh
if you
yeah.
heard of that
Yeah.
one. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that was so fucking good.
Yeah, that's Zahn. Zahn's one of the executive producers on there with J.R.R. Martin, or J.R. Martin, the guy who did Game
Lord
of
of the Rings. Oh yeah, Game of Thrones, not Lord of the Rings. Well, I'm way off on that.
King. But yeah, no, that's from what I hear. I have not had an opportunity to watch it, and I'm dying to work on that show. I would love to work on it. So, hey.
I think that would be like a perfect fit for you for season two. Season one just now got over, I think, sometime last year. But it's really good, and there's some supernatural elements in Dark Winds as well. So it kind of borders like the slight horror line. It's mostly thriller drama type stuff with a little bit of comedy here and there thrown in, but it does have some cool supernatural elements I really dig.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, definitely recommend that. So how'd you get your start in acting? How did all that begin for you?
It's something I had always wanted to do, and we had a fairly thriving film community or film business in Tucson back in the like from the 1930s on to the 80s. It was thriving, and then I just I started sneaking on the movie sets. There were so many movies being done here, you could just practically walk on there and nobody would notice you.
Hmm.
And so I started doing that, and I figured out, okay, the guys with the walkie-talkies, they're somebody important. Um, I just put a walkie-talkie on, start walking around like I knew what I was doing. They figured out, okay, this guy's not working for any of the departments, but I was a hard worker.
Hmm.
And, so they offered me jobs, to work behind the scenes, which I was totally, it was awesome for me, because then I got to meet actors, and because that's what I really wanted to do. Um, so it allowed me to talk to actors to find out what I had to do to get acting jobs, not just extra roles. Because I had worked on films as an extra.
Mm-hmm.
You do that, there's really very seldom opportunity for you as an actor when you're an extra. You're just background. So I just kind of utilized this as my school every time I worked on a film, either being a production assistant, cable puller, working in costumes. I was a wrangler. And whatever I could get on a movie and do, I would do.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. I loved it. There's a part of me that's like, man, I wish I could be acting, but I was still happy just to be working on a movie,
Right. I was looking on your Internet Movie Database thing there too. It said early on you worked on Young Guns too, which I love the Young Guns movies.
Yes, sir. That was my first big Hollywood movie, and I literally slept outside the casting director's hotel room for 3 nights,
Whoa.
waiting for him to show up. I'd found out where he was staying. I'd bribed the hotel maids and bribed the security guards with coffee and donuts, and they let me hang out there. And he showed up, and I was literally asleep at his door. And I was like, I'm half asleep, saying, "Oh, I want to work on Young Guns too," and blah blah blah. I'm Native American, and he just wanted to get to his room. He's like, "I can't hire you. I don't have any. I can't afford to hire." He was just wanting to get rid of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Here's the deal, buddy." I go, "You're either going to give me a job or you're going to need to call the cops." And he's just like wide-eyed. He's like, "You're serious?" He goes, "You're willing to get arrested?" I go, "Yeah." I go, "I'm leaving here with handcuffs or a job, man." And he's like, "I can't pay you." And I was like, "Can you pay me with food? Can you feed me?" And he was like, "Fine, just be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning." And he hired me as his assistant. And from there, when I met Lou Diamond, Lou really liked my hair. His hair was like, maybe shoulder length. Mine
Mm-hmm.
was down to my waist. And he was like, "Would you mind if I had some guy come and duplicate your hair onto mine?" And so we did that at the pool at the hotel. And then when the director saw us together, he
Mm-hmm.
was like, "God, you guys could be brothers." And so they offered me the job of stunt double, photo double. And I went from working for food to getting paid like 300 and some bucks a day. It was amazing.
Oh, that's badass. You got any like cool like on the set stories? Because I mean, that's a hell of a group of dudes you work with there.
Yeah, it was, I got to meet James Coburn. That was the biggest thing ever because to me, he was like from that era, from the golden era of Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And got to sit and talk to him about Bruce Lee. I'm a huge Bruce Lee fan. And James was a pallbearer at Bruce Lee's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just getting to work with everybody that I got to work with, and getting to ride horses, and we did a cattle drive, and the guy who taught, because I didn't know how to ride a horse at the time. I lied to them and said I could ride. I told them I was born on a horse,
Oh shit.
and that's why they offered me the role of photo double and riding double. The wrangler, when he saw me get on the horse and ride, he was like, "You ain't never rid a horse in your life." And he was a wrangler named Jack Lilly, and he said, "Hey, if you show up here every morning at 5 in the morning and help us unload the horses, I'll teach you how to ride." So of course I showed up, and he was teaching me, and his sons were there because he was an older gentleman. He was like maybe in his 60s at the time,
Uh-huh.
and his older sons would tease me, and they started calling me Marion. And finally I just talked to him. I'm like, "Jack, you better talk to your boys, man, because they're really pissing me off." And he's like, "What's going on?" I go, "They keep calling me Marion." I go, "I don't know why." And he goes, "Oh, it's because you ride like the Duke." And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, the Duke, John Wayne." He goes, "I taught John Wayne how to ride."
Whoa.
And you remind them of the Duke and the way you ride. And I go, "But what's the correlation with Marion?" He goes, "That's the Duke's real name, is Marion
Oh, yeah.
Morrison."
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool.
Yeah, that's a good compliment, you know.
Yeah, I was like, okay. I was like, the Duke didn't know how to ride? He goes, no, not really. He goes, he was a prop guy. They found John Wayne working props on a movie. And
Oh,
I
that's
guess the
good.
star was getting too cocky one day and he didn't want to do a scene. And he had an argument with the producer. And uh, the producer said, listen, I can make anybody into a star. And the movie star looked over at this kid, lanky kid. He goes, fine, make him a star. He goes, I will. And it was John Wayne was marrying Morrison, John Wayne.
That's crazy. You can almost tell too in some of those old John Wayne movies, like when he's on horseback and stuff, he looks a bit uneasy, I guess, you know. I
Yeah.
guess I know why now, so.
Yeah, and he and ironically, he used to hang out with oh my God, I always forget this cat's name. The guy from Tombstone, uh, Earp. John Wayne used to hang out with Wyatt Earp.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Wyatt was working as a consultant on movies, on Western movies, and
Mhm.
nobody really believed that he was the real Wyatt Earp, but he was. And John Wayne was one of the few people who actually believed him, and he would bring him coffee and everything. And later on, Wayne would admit that he goes, I just imitate Wyatt when I'm on film. So when you see me do that walk, the John Wayne walk, and the way he talks, he's like, that was Wyatt. That's how Wyatt sounded.
That's cool. I didn't know that. I didn't know he had I didn't know Wyatt Earp had a walk like that. Because when I think of Wyatt Earp, I just go automatically to Tombstone, with Kurt Russell. Was it,
Yeah,
yeah, you know, so
yeah.
it's a new one.
I got called on to Tombstone. My buddy Val Kilmer, um, we had worked on Gore Vidal's Billy the Kid, and he had called me to work on it, so I got to work on it. But unfortunately, my scenes got cut out.
Oh, how long have you known Val Kilmer for?
Oh God, I've known him since the early '90s. Probably no, 1989. That's when I got hired on that film. That was my first real film.
Hmm. That's cool. I'm a big Val Kilmer fan, and it's been sad to see, like, I think he ended up getting throat cancer, I believe, and he has to use like some kind of AI type voice device now. But because I watched that new documentary about Val Kilmer and it came out pretty recently and stuff. It's just like, man, he was such a badass in his prime. There's only one Val Kilmer. He's like one of the last of the legends.
Yeah, he was a prolific smoker. I mean, the guy smoked a lot. I'd never met anyone that smoked as much as that kid did, and I even mentioned, I was like, dude, you smoke a lot, man. And he's like, yeah. But I wasn't surprised when I found out what had happened because of the amount of smoking that he did.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Do you still
Yeah,
stay in contact with him now, or?
I haven't. We kind of lost contact after a while. You just kind of do that. I mean, his career was taken off, and I didn't have any. Man, I was just working normal jobs, trying to survive, and like I said, he was just at a different level. He was a movie star, and I really hadn't broken through. I really hadn't done any huge parts, or I didn't have a career to speak of. So there's not much we could really talk about.
Right.
But he was very instrumental in helping me out in the beginning, and definitely owe him a lot of gratitude.
That's cool. I'm glad to know that he's sounds like a pretty decent person in real life. Sometimes your movie heroes and stuff, or even musical heroes, turn out to be dicks in the end.
Yeah, he is intense, man, and he's an artist, and he went to Juilliard, and he's a method actor. That's where I learned about method acting was through Val. So he can be quite intense on the set, and I can understand how some people might have had off-putting experiences with him because unless you're into it, you might not understand it. Uh, but it's proven to work for him. I mean, Doc Holliday, to me, it's probably one of the top 10 greatest performances ever, in the history of film, in my eyes. That performance he did, he was gone. He was not Val anymore. He was Doc Holliday.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you on that. Tombstone's still one of my favorite films, and yeah, his performance is really what sold that film for me. So damn good, and like you said, he's like lost in the part. It's like he is Doc Holliday now.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna stand like Babe Ruth's record. I mean, it's gonna be a long time before anyone will be able to come and even get close to that performance. And getting to be there and witness it, and being around Kurt Russell, who is one of the nicest celebrities I've probably ever met, and Dave Delaney, and she was just so awesome and sweet, and it was just incredible being around these cats. I mean, I'm just looking at myself like, is this really happening? Like, am I hanging out with these guys?
Also, good to know about Kurt Russell. I'm a big fan of his too. It's good to know he's nice in person, so that's cool.
Yeah, he is nice to everyone across the board. I don't care who you are. If you're an extra, if you're the janitor, if you're a producer, he treats everyone the same and will talk to you and, give you his personalized attention, which is awesome.
That is awesome. I think I've been thinking about a lot now as we get older and stuff like our heroes, our movie heroes, our action star heroes of back in the day, like Arnold, Sylvester Stallone, Kurt Russell, Bruce Willis, all these guys, like they're getting up there in age now. Like it's going to be a really sad day when they don't act anymore at all or do any kind of like appearances and stuff, or when they finally pass away. That's going to be horrible. The older I get, the more I think about that, because you can't replace these guys. They're like one of a kind, and they don't make people like that no more.
Yeah, no, they've affected me in my career, just everything that they've done. I followed Stallone's career and of course Schwarzenegger's, and try to emulate some of the things that they had pulled off in their day. And it's just you don't want to see him go. And Bruce Willis, and it's like the joy that these people bring to so many people, and then in the end, like Bruce has an illness, and you're like, man, you would think, I don't know, you just think that they're above regular illnesses, or since they did so much for American iconography and film history, that it would just be different for them. But I guess at the end of the day, they're just like you and me.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely know now that they're mortals because growing up, they're like godlike. Especially Arnold
Oh
and
yeah.
Sylvester Stallone to me, like those are like gods, man. Like they know that they're not gods; they're human, just like I am, and mortality is a real thing. It's a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, more the reason to enjoy the time we have right now.
Exactly. But I will say with Sylvester Stallone, he's still fucking jacked for an older fella, man. He's like what, 75 years old, and he's still like built better. Like he's still a fucking action figure like he was in the in the 90s for the most part. It's crazy.
I saw him in Tulsa when we were shooting Res Dog season 2. He was at the hotel that we were staying at. They were filming a scene for his new show, and I kind of stood off to the side because I wanted to at least say hi to him or something, but I didn't want to bother him. So I told the first ADs, hey, if there's a moment, I would just like to say hello to him. But he looked super busy. So after a while, I'm like, okay, it doesn't feel like it's gonna happen. So I'll just roll the dice again, and maybe I'll run into him later. But yeah, he looked great. Like he stood, his posture was just impressive for being as old as he is. And when he moved, he moved like a young man. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, whatever he's on, whatever he takes for, supplementation, whatever that is, like his secret sauce there is like, it's doing it for him, man. Like I say, he's I think he's what, 75 or something, or I know he's in his 70s, and I just watched like a brand new action movie with him in there where he played like this anti-superhero type character, which was a pretty good movie. It's on Amazon Prime. I just can't think of the name off the top of my head, but Yeah, he's in great shape for that age, and he's in great shape for anybody of any age, man. I'm not that Jack. Nobody knows that Jack, but he is. you know.
Exactly. No, it's like I want some of that secret sauce, whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know what he's on, but it's powerful stuff. And I hear his new show, Tulsa King. I think that's probably what maybe you saw him film at or whatever. Like that's supposed to be really good as well, and I want to check that out. And like some friends told me Tulsa King's really cool.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's awesome to see older actors still working and still being sought after. Because back in the day, that wasn't always the case. As soon as they hit a certain age, nobody wanted to touch them. And now, Arnold, Jean-Claude, Stallone, who was the woman who just finished the Halloween thing.
Oh, crap. Oh, damn, it's right there on top of my head. Damn. It's fucking. Hold on, let me look it up real fast to get it right there. I'm having a brain for it.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah. Well, damn, that's like should be right there in my memory banks. But
Yeah, and but it's awesome to see them being sought after. To be, Michelle Yeoh, she just won a Golden Globe, and um, I love seeing that. I love seeing that there's the possibility of working until you're older. I'm getting up there. In my career, I mean, I when I got cast, I was 55 years old, and that was the biggest break of my life.
hmm
And I always joke about it and say I was a cautionary tale, and then overnight I was an instant success. And people ask me like, "Oh, what's your secret?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, it only took me 34 years to be an overnight success."
But you
And
stuck at it too, though.
oh yeah, I'm stubborn, man, and I wasn't going to give up. And you hit a certain point where you're like, okay, doesn't look like I might not be able to accomplish what I set out to. So you recalibrate. You're like, okay, well, if I can't do that, let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can. But then it's hilarious because that's usually when it happens. And even Sterling was on his way out. I had called him a couple of months prior to all this, and I was like, hey, are you going to be doing any projects or? And he's like, nah. He's like, I've just applied at a bunch of colleges to teach because I think I'm going to have to hang it up. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, it's just not happening. None of my films have garnered any of the attention of the big guys or money or whatever you need to continue your career. And he has a family and he's got to support them. And I was a little sad. I was like, oh man. So he was on his way out.
hmm
And then all of a sudden, boom, Taika Waititi, nuclear bomb.
Right.
And it's hilarious. Taika's so crazy, man. When at the premiere, he tells the story of how it happened. Or Sterling did. Sterling said he was on his way out. He was ready to give up. And then he gets a call from his agent. She's like, what's Reservation Dogs? And he's like, it's a story Taika and I talked about. How did you know about that? She's like, apparently you have a deal at FX. And he's like, what? And then his other line rings and it's Taika. He's like, let me talk to Taika. Let me see what he did. And I swear to you, this is exactly what Taika said to him. He's like, he gets on the other line. He's like, Taika, he's like, hey, got your deal at FX, but I gotta go. I'll talk to you later. And Sterling, so he goes, I didn't talk to him for another 3 weeks. So he had to like call Hulu and they had to put the show together. Taika was MIA. And then he just showed back up again. And, that's when casting started. And
Wow. Like a 2 second life changing call pretty much there, and then you're on hold for another 2 weeks waiting to hear the rest of it.
yeah. And Sterling was left with this huge responsibility in his lap. He had to develop everything until Taika showed up again, and not knowing if Taika would have said, hate it, let's redo everything, but I think they're very simpatico. They discuss this idea that there were similarities between Taika's upbringing and Sterling and his reservation and Taika's or Sterling's res, and they started to see parallel characters. Like, yeah, we got a guy like that, but it's like any, small community or microcosm or ghetto. You go to any ghetto in the world, and there's going to be people that like, oh man, that's like Crazy Willie, down the street, or or Crackhead Frank, or we all got those characters that float around in our lives.
Yeah, totally. I got a few of those in the neighborhood we live in now. We got more than a few of those. Like, hey, there's the crazy guy from the side of the street there. He's always there. This guy that tries to run over the ducks.
Yeah, and the white guy who's more, native or black than a actual native or black person.
Mhm.
We always those are always the weird ones, man. The strange white people that were more what your ethnicity is.
Right.
Because they grew up in it, and it's like it's hilarious. It's not like they're trying to, steal anything or whatever. They just grew up around it, so that's what they are. And it's I have white guys I would hang out with, and we'd have to, like, people would comment about it, be like, oh yeah, well, he grew up with us, so he's not white.
That's like the junkyard guys off of Reservation Dogs. Like that's kind of like them, I guess. Then.
Yeah, no, the guy, that's exactly it. He's more Indian than Indian. He's almost Hollywood Indian, and the way he speaks and all this. He's trying to be all super duper native, and it's hilarious. That part killed me, man. That guy's so funny.
Yeah, he's hilarious. Like it's a good bit of comedy relief, especially when shit gets heavy on that show.
Yeah, and then there's lots of heaviness, man. There's lots of, that's when I read the script, I was like, oh man, they're going there, man. This is really, really heavy stuff and it's hard. It's hard to talk about it because it's systemic within all the reservations. We've all went through this.
Hmm.
I with survivors of child molestation and violent youth offenders for over 30 some years. And, it's a pandemic and it's systemic. It's like a cookie cutter. Every reservation, it's the same thing. 7 out of 10 women will experience some form of molestation, violence in their life. And, uh, you know, to see a show tackle that subject matter and do it in a way where it's palatable.
Yeah, it's definitely something that it needs to be out there and needs to be said.
Yeah, to see a show do that, to see a show handle it in a way that they did. And, how do you pitch that? How do you say, yeah, we're going to talk about suicide, but it's, there's comedy in it. Like, oh, what?
Hmm.
I'm sure the executive, like, kudos to the execs at Hulu and FX that were willing to support the show the way that they did. And, I don't know what was going through their minds.
Yeah, but it was a great move to get it out there like it is, like and make some awareness and stuff, and it's doing so well, like it's just killing it. So I just think it's great.
Yeah, no, I have to pinch myself, man, because every time I see something about Res Dogs, there's the actor part of me is like, oh man, I want to be on that show, and then I'm like, dude, you are on that show. Yeah.
That's got to be trippy as hell, man. Like,
No, it is because it was such a life altering event for me and my family, and that it's still every now and then, like I was at the store the other day with my grandson at the checkout, and this lady's like looking at me, and she's like, "You look familiar to me." And she's trying to put it together. You ever see Reservation Dogs? And then she freaks out. She's like, "Oh my god, here's one!" And uh, it's weird. It's weird to go from the guy that nobody knows to people recognizing you on the street, and it's fun. It's awesome. I'm glad my grandson got to witness it.
Yeah, it's got to be a great feeling. I bet you feel like $1,000,000 when that happens. It's like, holy shit, it's me.
Yeah, no, it's done wonders for my ego.
Yeah, I think we all should have a little bit of an ego when it comes to things, especially things that we're proud of and stuff like that.
Oh,
That's what makes life worth living.
yeah, and I'm so proud of it. I'm so proud of the work that we did, and a native father who's a good dad, and the relationship he has with his daughter mirrors the relationship I have with my daughter. I'm a single father. I raised my kid on my own, and we're super close. And sometimes that's good, and sometimes that's bad. uh, but I was there. I showed up. I was a good dad. I think I was a good dad. And to play a character that shows the world not all native dads are absent or alcoholic or violent was just amazing.
Hmm. Yeah, you played that role really well, and I also really dig your daughter's role in that when she's fucking badass.
Oh yeah, Willie Jack, man, she is just a little badass. And Sterling had brought me in early because he wanted me to work with her because he was a little worried because she really didn't have a lot of screen, like exposure. And the more I read with her, the more I talked to her, I just told her, I'm like, let's just see what she does. I have a funny feeling about her, and she did. Like there was stuff she did I didn't know about until I got to watch the show, and I would see her do these little bookend emotions at the end of scenes that were just perfect.
Hmm.
That were just, oh my god, she did it. And that micro expression that she would do after a certain conversation, and I was just like, okay, this kid's got it. She's got this natural flow, and we should mess with it. Just let her do what she does.
Yeah, she's like a fireball, it's like full of like energy and like very natural. Like especially like I was looking at everybody's like bios when the show came out and stuff, seeing what they played in beforehand and like seeing all these people like really didn't have a lot of stuff. Like the younger crowd didn't have a lot of stuff going on with the acting stuff, but they seem so natural in Reservation Dogs, especially her.
Yeah, no, it was serendipity, man. It was all of it was just, we were really nervous about that episode. Disney was nervous about that episode because it was just she and I holding the whole, episode together. So they were really concerned whether we were going to be able to pull it off or not.
Hmm.
And then, it turned out to be a fan favorite, which we were really happy with. And just, people write me and they're like, is she your real daughter? And you guys feel like it's real? And I'm like, nope, I just met her that day. And
Wow.
he threw us on the side. And, but yeah, there was a quick bonding with us. And, you know, I just love the way her character got a little vulnerable around me, that she felt comfortable enough to feel safe. And you could see that. People watching could tell that she felt safe being emotional with this guy.
Yeah. There's definitely like a warm feeling watching y'all scenes together and stuff. Seems like you're like made to be in that scene together.
Yeah, so I'm hoping season 3, man, they call me up again and tell me we got more stuff to do. So, because I would love to, continue to explore that relationship with Lily Jack and her dad.
Yeah, they better, and I'm sure they will, because but they damn well better.
Well, tell them you said so, Brandon. I'll be
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, like one I forgot what actor it was on Twitter. I like tweeted at him or whatever about some shit on one of their shows, and they got back to me. It was a director or something, and I was like, holy shit! And they got like 20 million followers. I think it was the director of one of the directors of What We Do in Shadows. I was like, hey, we need a new season, and then they tweeted back at me, oh, that's a nice name, Horror Wolf 666. I'm like, oh shit.
wow,
Yeah.
that's pretty
Things
cool.
like that happened. Yeah, I was like, man, I told my wife, I was like, I'm semi-famous now, I guess. I just got tweeted back from one of the directors from What We Do in Shadows. So,
That is awesome, man.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So I also want to talk to you about one of your films I ran into when I was just watching some shit on Shudder one day, and that is Blood Relatives. I was like, holy shit, look who's in Blood Relatives.
Yeah, no, how did I get that one? Trying to remember. But yeah, somebody knew me who knew the director.
Hmm.
And they were saying, "Oh, I know that guy," and he's like, "Oh, I'd love to have him on this film that we're doing." She's like, "Well, let me call him." And I basically called the director back, and he sent me the script, and I read it, and I was like, "Oh, dude, I'm so in," and I love the script, and just again, playing a guy who owns a garage, and uh, I just liked it. I was like, was going to be around a lot of hot rods and the garage. I was like, dude, I'm so in.
Nice. And that was your first horror movie, correct?
Yes, it was. And I loved it. I was like, I want to do more horror, man. I mean, my goal is to work on as many projects that natives don't traditionally work on, or that you don't necessarily traditionally see natives in.
Hmm.
Uh, that's always been my goal. And I've turned down a ton of Western movies. I want to play, my people, we call them leather and feather roles.
Hmm.
And I'm done with them. I just don't want to do them. I mean, unless the script was profound and really hit me in a certain way, I would consider it, but I'm just trying to stay away from that.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And yeah, you should definitely do more horror movies because those are great Blood Relatives, and it was a cool movie. I almost avoided it for first couple weeks there because of the artwork on the cover on Shutter there. Like the artwork was like kind of putting me off a bit. I'm like, yeah, this is pretty generic. But once I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is a cool little like horror comedy. I dig vampires a lot and stuff, and it was actually a really really tight movie.
Sweet. I'm glad I won you over.
Yeah, it was great. That's sometimes with since we don't have all the blockbusters anymore, the Hollywood videos and stuff, like when you see like the artwork for these films they just throw up there on these streaming networks, sometimes those can like put me off if if it looks super generic or like somebody just made this shit on like fucking Photoshop or something real fast, like it can kind of fuck with me. But I took the chance and went in with it and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's the difficult part about when you're independent, and sometimes the distribution companies that pick you up, they hold the control to the advertising and how it will be advertised. And or there may not be much of a budget there for advertising. So
Hmm.
you're kind of left with what is being thrown at you. And sometimes, yeah, it's you see the kind, you're like, oh my God, that's not the best thing ever. And or doesn't portray the film as it should. But in the end, what do you do? It's like catch 22 when you're independent. And I totally get that. I have a distribution company for independent films, and I try to help independent films get distribution,
Hmm.
global distribution, and sometimes that's what we have to deal with, because obviously the filmmaker is a first-time filmmaker, low budget, so we can't go in there swinging a big bat saying, "Hey, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to be able to do all the advertising."
Right.
Distribution company will be like, "Nope."
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm a big fan of a lot of indie stuff. I've had a lot of indie directors and stuff on this podcast and stuff, and I totally get it. Like, it's not easy. You're also you're in another like horror type thriller thing called Deep Woods, correct?
Yeah, we did that. Where did we do that? Where was I? I've done 7 movies since I got hired on Reservation Dogs. I've been,
Damn.
yeah, it's been crazy, man. Deep Woods was awesome, man. I know I was freezing my butt off when we did it. It was cold. It was super cold where we were, and yeah, no, and I got to work with some great guys, man. Gillen, the lead guy, he was really good, really dedicated to, you know, giving it that realistic look. And I was looking at him. You're insane, man. But yeah, it's been a roller coaster ride. I'm still trying to recover from it. I'm hoping this coming year will be just as busy. Um, we've got I just finished a film called Last Stop in Yuma County in
Hmm.
Lancaster, California, with Faison Love.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so it was weird because I see Faison, I'm like, oh my God, it's Big Perm, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
for Friday, and he was the coolest dude ever, nicest, coolest, funniest cat on the set. He was cracking us all up, and it was a shoot 'em up, and that takes place in the '80s, a bank robbery heist film, and all the characters of this story end up at a diner, and everyone has guns, so it's just not going to turn out well. Evening, and just to be in this thing. And then I worked with the cat. I killing myself. I forgot his name. He was in Game of Thrones. He played the Night King or the Shadow King. Game of
Hold on a second. Damn, it's right. Richard Brake? Was it Richard Brake?
Yes,
Yeah.
Richard Brake. He was awesome. I
Yes.
got to do a scene with him, and that was just blowing my mind. Getting to work with these cats and being on screen with them and sharing screen time with these, with it's kind of like validation in my eyes, for my career to say, wow, I'm getting to work with established actors now.
Right, no shit. And then, like mentioning Richard Brake is fucking awesome. I think he's super underrated, man. I want to see him in like more shit. He's been in a lot of stuff, but his roles aren't usually that big. They're kind
Yeah.
of here and there, but he's so good and he's so fucking evil too.
Oh my God. He does it so good. And then, of course, Offset, nicest guy in the world. I mean, just real calm, real easygoing, laid back. But when he's on screen, different cat, man. Like, this part that he plays in this movie, he reminds me of a snake, just coiled, ready to go. And you feel really uneasy around this cat because, when you run into guys like that are just wired way too tight,
Hmm.
and even though they're smiling at you and joking, it can easily just turn to violence.
Right.
And that's what character this guy was playing, and you felt it whenever he was there and on set. And then when we were done, different cat would show up. Richard Brake, cool dude.
That's fucking awesome. Last movie I've seen Richard Brake in was I think my favorite horror movie of last year was Barbarian. Have you seen Barbarian?
Oh, I haven't, but I keep hearing about it, so I gotta check it out.
Dude, Barbarian is fucking brutal. And I'm not gonna tell you much more than that because just going blind with that. I know the shit's been out for like a little while now, but try not to watch any trailers if you can, or like see anybody's spoilers of it or reviews because dude, it's a brutal movie, and it's the perfect like it starts off totally different than how it ends. Like it sets you up, and you don't even see it coming and stuff. But Richard Brake's in this movie towards the end, and he plays a pretty wild ass character. So you definitely want to check that out. I think it's on HBO Max, I believe. I think streaming on one of these services
Oh,
right now. That's awesome. Do you have any other projects you want to talk about that you can talk about that's coming out soon or already done?
I did a Ken Burns documentary that should be coming out this year, and it's about the how the buffalo affected the Native Americans in the the budding United States of America and our economy, and just the role that it played in the creation of this nation. And I got to do some voiceover work on that and do some voices of some historical chiefs, and I was so proud, and so um because you grow up watching this stuff and you're like, man, I would love to be involved in a project like that,
Right.
and then you get to do it, and it's surreal, it's unreal. That one, it shook me the most because getting to do the voice of these great chiefs like Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse and different characters like that, and to know that these are the words that they spoke. They weren't rewritten, these were their words, and I'm speaking them aloud in their absence. So I was very honored, to be a part of that.
That's killer. Yeah, and doing that with Ken Burns, who was like the king of documentaries before documentaries are like kind of cool. You know what I mean? He's been doing it for so fucking long.
Oh my God, yeah. And that guy, I mean, is just, again, his work is quality. And, you know, uh, again, I was like, are you sure you got the right guy? And they're calling me. Went really well. And again, I'm very excited. Can't wait. That's the one I'm just like on pins and needles, dying for it to come out. And then I shot another horror film in Alaska
Hmm.
called The Sea Folk.
Hmm.
And that was awesome. And we were in Whittier, Alaska, which, if you know anything about Whittier, it's an abandoned World War II base. And the only way you can get to it is through the Puget Sound, or you drive a half hour through a mountain.
Oh wow,
A
dude.
mountain.
Fuck.
Yeah. And they created this tunnel, and there can only be one way of traffic at any given time. And you drive through it, and you're like, they dug through this mountain. They literally. And then when you get to the other side, it's like Jurassic Park, man. It's wilderness, that untouched wilderness, and no matter where you look, there's some type of life form milling about. Bears, moose, beavers. Just creatures of all kinds. It's alive. The world around you is alive, and it's amazing. It's just, it was probably one of the most beautiful experiences I ever had.
That sounds wild, man. Like literally. Shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And we were shooting one scene at night, and a bear was like growling in the woods. And we had a guy there who was a bear expert,
Hmm.
and everybody was worried. He goes, he's probably not, he won't come down. And he's just letting us know he's there. But then he said, if he does come down, he showed us what to do. And we were like, you're like, okay, there's a bear like really close to us.
Shit. When is this one supposed to come out? Is it coming out this year, you think, or?
We're hoping, man. They're in post production right now, so God willing, it'll be done soon.
That's awesome. So that'd be like what, number three when it comes to horror films for you, or number four?
Yeah, number
Number
three
three.
horror film, and the company. It's a really good company, and they told me they want to work with me again. So hopefully, there's they pitched a couple of ideas, and I was like, oh my God, they all sound great. Um, so we'll see, and you know, there's there's stuff possibly on the, you can't say too much because I'm hoping on certain projects.
Hmm.
But Hollywood, it's funny. I mean, one minute you're the guy they're considering, and then all of a sudden, nope, you're out. And nothing personal or anything like that. It's just they go in a different direction, and you're like, okay, all right.
Well, it seems like you've been busy as hell, and I hope the busyness continues for you, which I'm pretty sure it will be. Like, I think you're rolling really
I'm
good
trying.
right now.
Yeah, it's definitely, Reservation Dogs have opened up the doors, and I'll be doing a Kickstarter at the end of the month for a comic book that I do called Tribal Force,
Oh yeah, I've seen your
and it's
post
the
about that. That shit's badass looking, dude.
that's my baby, man, and that's where all my Reservation Dogs money went. So when you see me rolling around in my '05 Camry, and you're like, how come this guy don't got a nice car? Just know that it went to Tribal Force.
And you said that Kickstarter comes out this year?
Yeah, we're hoping at the end of the month or sometime soon. It's just been getting everything together because we want to have the book pretty much done by the time our Kickstarter comes out, because we want to be able to guarantee that whoever does put into the Kickstarter, you will get what you're investing in, because a lot of Kickstarters will take your money and then not follow through. You get
Hmm.
nothing. We want to be able to say, no, it's pretty much done. We just need money for publishing.
Killer. Yeah, I definitely support the hell out of that. Like I said, I've been seeing your posts here and there about that. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I know you like comics and all, and like Conan. I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's another, and and that's another project I've been trying to force my way in, is the new Conan series that I think Netflix is developing it. And I've talked to a couple of them, and I said, listen, I know I'm too old to play Conan, but I would love to play his father or his grandfather or anything on, uh, anything, because I love the property so much, and it's had such an indelible effect on me as a kid. And uh, in my writing, Robert E. Howard affected my writing, and it's just one of those pillars inside my mind that if I could give back to entertainment, that's one of them.
Hmm.
That Star Wars. Who doesn't want to be in a Star Wars movie or TV series? And back in the day when they were casting for Jango Fett, I was trying to get seen, and my agent was pushing really hard. And finally, they called her and said, Mr. Lucas does not want to see American actors for Jango Fett.
Huh.
It's like, what?
Huh.
What?
To hell, man.
And yeah, and I mean, I literally bugged my agent so much that she called them to the point where they're like, don't call here anymore. And that's why they called her, was just to say, listen, there's just no way he's not going to be seen. And broke my heart, dude, because I
Yeah,
wanted Django really bad.
I think he would have killed it as a Jango Fett.
I saw a picture of the kid. They had cast the kid, I guess little Boba, and when I saw that he had dark skin and the way that he looked, I'm like, okay, natural fit. He's a clone of his father, and his father's got to kind of look like that, I would imagine. And unfortunately, it just wasn't to be. And I had the background and everything, and I was just hoping beyond hope. But you have to be able to. There's got to be some naivete in your approach, because everyone
Hmm.
will look at you, no way they're going to cast you in that. Who the hell do you think you are? And sure, is it kind of crazy? Yeah, it is. But if you don't try, if you don't, shoot your shot, then who's to blame? You're to blame. If they
Right.
if they tell me no and I strike out, I can live with that. I can live with striking out because I got a shot. I was at bat. And if you strike out, it just means you're not good enough at that point, or you don't have the necessary skills or whatever.
Hmm.
But you can live with that. But if you're sitting at home and all you got are these woulda, coulda, shoulda stories, who do you blame? You got to blame yourself.
Right. I
I'm trying.
totally agree with that. Yeah, you sit back and like I fucking tried, and like you're not sitting there like wondering, oh, what could have been this, could have been that, but I never tried or nothing, that's bullshit.
You got awesome stories, man. That's where you get your battle scars from, And it's like I I snuck into Universal once, not studios, or Universal Studios, the production element, not the park.
Hmm.
Walked around and I snuck into auditions, and I met Tom Selleck, and I had a bunch of scripts with me, me and my buddy, a writer, a well-known writer now named Paul Gio.
Hmm.
Uh, we snuck into all these production companies, and we brought our scripts with us, and we would throw them in cars and put them in mailboxes of big time producers. Just trying to make a break for ourselves. And we actually got contacted by one producer from a company that we snuck into, putting scripts into their boxes.
Hmm.
And she knew. She was like, she goes, yeah, you probably snuck in here and blah, blah, blah. She goes, but fine, I'll give you a review on your script. And long story short, the best compliment in the review was that we wrote like talented sixth graders.
Oh.
My friend was crushed, dude. He was crushed, and I was happy. I was like, dude, she said talented. And but it was cool because it definitely told us we were onto something, but we needed to polish up our skills.
Hmm.
And it wasn't just going to come to us just because You know, just because you wake up and decide to write a script, Hollywood isn't going to open their doors for you. There's things that you have to do. There's a skill level, a skill set that they're looking for. And if you don't possess that, you have to have the optics to look at yourself and say, I need to get better. I need to improve, or to be able to know that there's room for improvement. That's huge, because I know a lot of people that are a little delusional.
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, because they're doing, for some reason, the universe needs to respond to them. It's like, no, it's not that. And it's not that all the time. Yeah, for some people, that does happen, you know. They trip over success. But for the rest of us, you have to work hard at it. You have to prove yourself. You have to put the time and the sweat equity in. You know, what are the 10,000 hours you've got to put in? Sometimes 20, sometimes 50.
Yeah, putting the work in is important. Like you got to put the work in for anything that you do. Like I come from a music background, and I still do music now, but I've been doing that since I was about 16 or so and stuff. And man, there's a lot of blood and sweat that goes into that, you know, just like anything else, like acting or writing, hell, doing podcasts, stuff like that. You really got to put the work in if you want to see good results.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's just it. You know, this is the age we live in, and there's opportunity out there, but you know, you got to work. You got to work. No matter what you do, if you have a crappy job, they're going to work your butt off. Like McDonald's is a hard job.
Mm-hmm.
Hard job, because you work your ass off, you know, no matter if you're the manager or one of the burger flippers. And at the end of the day, you get very little. You know, you can barely survive on it. So if you're going to work that hard at a job that barely pays you to survive, what would happen if you did that towards something that you love? You know, a goal that you have that want to achieve. If you put that much hard work into it.
Right.
And
It's
so I
just on
figured,
what you could achieve, you know.
exactly. And, you know, that's always been my thing. It's like, well, if you're going to, you know, you're going to have to work hard, you know, going right or left. So you might as well go the direction you want to go, because you're going to work hard. And I'd rather put that hard work towards stuff I love, you know, my art and stuff, and my comic and acting, and whatever else comes my way.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with that. And yeah, John, you kick ass, man. It's been great talking with you. We need to do this again because I want to have another episode. Maybe down the line we can talk comics and stuff like that, especially like Conan. We can probably dedicate a whole episode just to that.
Like I said, my you know, the Kickstarter's coming up, and Machine Comics is my publisher. The guy's name is Gene Jimenez. So, you know, if you want to do something around that time, or, you know, that would be great too.
Oh, I'm totally down with that. Just keep me posted. You know, we'll stay in contact on social media and all that stuff, of course. But yeah, keep me posted on that. We can do a whole nother episode when, you know, talk about your upcoming comic and everything. I really like take a deep dive on that. That'd be fun.
All right. No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate being on the show too, man.
Oh yeah, and I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks to our mutual friend Sonia once again, that, you know, getting us connected on here. That's cool. She's awesome. We did a podcast last year together, and I'm sure we're gonna do another one this year too. So she's also a badass.
Sonia is my sister from another mister.
Yeah, she's cool. We try to get Stephen King's attention because we did an episode on Stephen King stuff and everything. But maybe next time we get Stephen King's attention. We'll see what happens, you know. All right, John. Well, you take it easy and have a good rest of your weekend and stuff. And I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon, brother.
Later, man.